Hello, everyone. It's Marilynne from Ecstasy Crafts, and welcome to our virtual class. I hope everybody had a great day and you're ready to do some crafting this evening. Today, we're going to be using Jamie Rogers' die and stamp set to create some tea bag folding designs. So tea bag folding used to be popular, and people used to actually save their tea bags and then do the folds and make cards or craft items out of their tea bags. So tonight we get to use stamps and dies to make that a little simpler. And you've got everything you need in your kit. So I'm just going to go through that first, and then we'll get started crafting. So I'm just going to switch my camera here so you can see my close-up camera. So who do we have here today? So it looks like we have Tony and we have Jennifer. We have a few others on with us this evening. So tonight we're going to make 2 cards, or hopefully we'll get through 2 cards. It is a little bit time consuming, but we'll see what we can do. So this is one of the cards, and you can see the lovely dimension that you get with this rosette design. And we're going to use the Pixie sparkles to create the background. And you also receive the frame in your kit already cut out for you. So that was kind of a bonus. And then we're going to make this card as well, which is a slimline card. And it's using a different fold to create the tea bag design, or the tea bag folded design. And again, you received pieces of the different variegated shades of pink in your kit. So those are the 2 cards we're going to make. And then this is what comes in the kit. We have the tea bag folding dies. Now, there are several shapes to the tea bag folding dies. There's a square, a circle, an octagon. And this is called the Pointy Petals. So you can see how it has quite a nice shape, and that makes it very easy to actually do the folds as well. So you can see it there. So you get a large die and a small die, and you get coordinating stamps. Now, I'm sure everyone's opened up their package, but if you're just joining us and haven't purchased these items, they are still available. And you get instructions on the inside. So this is like a folded card that you're able to keep, and it has 4 different folds for you to use with the tea bag folding designs. We're going to do 2 this evening, and then there's a few others, and we're going to explore next week with next week's class, or not next week, sorry, 2 weeks. On the 23rd, we're going to explore how to use these products to make a few different cards. And I'll share those samples with you this evening. And then you get the stamp set. Now, the stamp set's probably the easiest, is to just look at the packaging for the stamp. So you get 1 large stamp to coordinate with the large die, and you get 2 of the smaller pointy petal stamps. Now, we're just going to use this one this evening, but we're going to use the others next week. Or not, sorry, I keep saying next week, next class, I guess I should say. So in 2 weeks. You also get some sentiments because you're special, happy birthday to you, and love you. So all of those are very versatile sentiments. And then, as I mentioned, you should have received 4 sheets of pink, shades of pink paper that we're going to use for the 1 card design. Now, this came from Jamie Rogers' tea bag folding paper pack. Well, I call it tea bag folding paper pack just because it's a nice lightweight. And you do need a lighter weight to make, somebody got purple paper. But that's okay. Yeah, as long as you got 4 different shades. The package, actually, I have some here. Unfortunately, it is sold out on the website, but hopefully some more will be coming. So some of you may have received shades of turquoise or purple or blue. So you can see kind of the different shades. The idea is that you get 4 different shades. So this is the front of the package, and you can see all the different shades that you get. It's called Tranquil Shades. It's an 8x8 size paper pack. You get 2 sheets of each, so 32 sheets in total. So if you really like the tea bag folding, this is they're lovely colors and a nice lightweight for tea bag folding. I'm going to share with you some other options. And then this package, I'm just going to open it. It's actually also the same weight and it coordinates well, but it's patterned. So unfortunately, this one's sold out on the website as well. But you can see a beautiful rose pattern, some leaf patterns, and the same shades. So you can coordinate with the other paper pack. So there are a variety of options. Again, 8x8 size, 32 sheets total, 2 of each design. All right, so I'm just going to move on. And then in addition to the paper that you got, you also got a white cardstock to use this evening. You received your instructions. So there are instructions. They are double-sided. And we'll be following those today. And there are some ideas here of how you're going to put it together. We'll go through all of that. And then you also got the Pixie Sparkles colors. So Peppermint Twist and Gilded Plum. And this is what we're going to use to make the background for the purple card here. And we're going to paint use it to paint some details in the stamp design. So that's what we're going to do this evening. And we will get started. Now you will need, the one thing that you didn't get in the kit was some paper, some copy paper or printing paper. That's what we're going to use to stamp on. So hopefully everybody has, that's usually something most people have at home, and we're going to use that this evening. So what I wanted to do first was create the Pixie Powder or Pixie Sparkle Powder background so that that can dry while we're creating our tea bag folding designs, and then we can put the card together. So if you want to take your Pixie Sparkles, we're going to use Gilded Plum to create the background. But if you wanted to use the Peppermint Twist, you could do that one as well. It really doesn't matter, whatever you prefer. Now I'm going to move some of my things out of the way here. And I do have a piece of watercolor cardstock. So it does hold the water a little bit better. And I'm going to, just because I don't want to get my surface here all wet and colored, I'm going to put an extra little plastic craft mat underneath. And so you will need a spray bottle of water and then your Pixie Sparkles. Now, if you haven't used Pixie Sparkles, if you've used Pixie Powders, they work the same way. So you just need to tap the Pixie Sparkles on top of your cardstock, and then we're going to spray water on top to spread it out. So all you really need to do is just turn it upside down and then just tap with your finger. Now, our card this evening is a 5.5 by 5.5 inch card. So you don't need a huge piece of paper. And I'm just going to tap a little bit over here. And you can see, well, maybe you can't see, but it is very sparkly. And the difference between the Pixie Sparkles and the Pixie Powders really is the amount of mica that's in them. So now I have my Pixie Sparkles on my paper, and I'm just going to take a spray bottle and I'm going to spray. And you can see how the color just starts to blend. Now, Jamie Rogers always says also spray the other side of your paper, and that will prevent it from bending. So I forgot to do that. Usually I would do that first. So I just did it now, and it does. It takes away that bend so that your paper doesn't curve up. Now I'm not going to do anything else to this tonight. I'm just going to leave it as is. And the colors will probably work. The more you spray, the more it will run together. In a previous, I think for this example, I actually took a paintbrush and kind of spread it out. So if you want a more even effect, you can do that. But I'm going to leave it like this, and we'll see how it turns out later once it's dry. So now all you have to do is put this aside and let it dry. Now, usually what I like to do is put it on top of a piece of newspaper. And I find that, so this is the car ad section of a local paper. And I'm just, not that I'm looking for a car, but that's what I'm using. And I'm just going to put it on top. And I find that that just absorbs some of the water and allows the paper to dry a little bit faster. So I'm just going to put this on the ground beside me. You can see how some of I'm going to let it mix a little bit here. And we'll see what we get. Okay. So that's how easy Pixie sparkle powders are to use. And then a little bit later, we're going to use them to paint with. And we're going to paint our design so that we have a coordinating design. Now I'm just going to use, if you had a project that you were working on or you wanted to use up some of your excess Pixie sparkles, you could actually take another piece of paper and spray the mat and then pick it up with your watercolor paper. I'm just going to wipe it off tonight. But that's definitely something you could do. So if you're making several designs together, then you're going to have more, and you can create another background design with your leftover Pixie sparkles. All right. So the next thing we're going to do this evening is we're going to actually stamp our tea bag folding designs. And I have one of my stamp presses here, but first what I want to do is I'm going to cut my copy paper. And I measured the largest die, and it's about 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So what I'm going to do, in order to save me time cutting out these designs, instead of cutting 8 out separately, I'm going to cut some paper, and I have several sheets here. So we actually need 8 designs. So I actually only need 2 sheets of paper, but I brought extra just in case. So I'm going to cut both of these with my paper trimmer, and I'm going to cut it at 4 1/4. And I have 2 pieces here. And then I'm going to cut it at 4 1/4 again. And because it's 8 1/2 by 11, I'll get 4 out of that piece, half of the sheet. And now I'm going to do exactly the same with the remaining half. And I should just have a little strip left over. And then when I put this into my stamp positioner, I'm going to get the designs in exactly the same spot. And if I get them in exactly the same spot, then I can die cut several together. So that saves a little bit of time in the die cutting step. Okay, so I have my pieces here. I'm going to put my cutter away. And now I'm going to grab my stamp press. Now this one I'm using is a precision stamp press from Couture Creations. We have a very similar one from Hunky Dory, and the difference is the hinge. So the hinge on the Couture Creations is attached, but what's nice about this is it has, when I put it down like this, it's not against the bottom. there's a little spring loaded in the corner. You can see it here, that once I put it over here, then all I have to do is press down. And then that's when I'm going to stamp it. So that's kind of nice. And then the Hunky Dory one looks exactly the same. It has an H. It's called the Stamping Press 2. It has exactly the same sort of spring mechanism in the two right-hand side corners. But this one, the whole lid comes off. So there's no hinge mechanism here. But there's these two magnets. And what they do is they just grab two little magnets here, and then you press down. So I haven't used this very much. It's a newer product that we have, but otherwise, to me, they would work exactly the same. So this is my couture creations. And then what I have, which looks very messy in here, is a sticky mat. So I don't know, those of you who have Cricuts, Cricut, or I forget what the other one's called, but the electronic cutting machines, then this is like a sticky mat that holds your paper. But it's also nice to cut one to size to fit your stamp positioner. Now I taped it down here so it's in the correct spot and it's all even, because this one has a grid, so I can use that. This has a grid on the lid. But it also helps hold my paper. So I kind of leave it in there, and I use it on a regular basis. Now my magnets still work through the sticky mat. Okay, so now I just have to find my stamp. So as I said earlier, we're using the large stamp. Now I'm going to use black ink. That was what was used in the sample, but you could have, so I'm just going to sort of make it nice and even here. Doesn't really matter as long as it fits on my paper. And then I'm going to close my lid and pick up my stamp. And then now that the paper does move slightly with the stamp, but it won't once I get the ink. Now you do need to use, because we're going to paint, then we're hoping you want to use an ink that's not going to, my camera is a little bit blurry here. You want to use the ink that won't bleed if you add water to it. So I'm going to use a VersaFine. This is Tuxedo Black. And the camera's a little bit blurry, but and that's what I'm going to use. But if you had another color and you wanted to use another color, go right ahead. It really does not matter. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to stamp 8 of these medallions onto our copy paper. So that'll be all right. If you're not happy with your stamp design, then you can always ink up your stamp again and restamp it. So now I'm going to put another piece of my copy paper into the same position, and I'm going to stamp again. And I just put my other aside. Now this is pigment ink, so it does stay wet a little bit, but we've got a little bit of stamping to do still. Okay, my second design. That's what's so nice about stamp positioners, that it makes your stamping easier. Now, if you just are using a stamping block, not a problem. You can still create the beautiful designs. You might just need a little bit longer to cut out the pieces. I always try and make things as speedy as possible. So. in the next class in a few weeks, we're going to stamp in gold ink. No, well, we're actually going to stamp a Versamark, but if somebody had gold ink, they could use gold ink instead. And then we're going to use some embossing powder, because I have some Christmas card designs. I know it might be a little bit early, but one of the stamp designs of the smaller stamps you can see has like a poinsettia design. So we're going to use that one to create a card. And we're going to put gold ink. Again, I'll show you the samples at the end of our class. How many do I have here? I've got 5. And then we're actually going to use some green ink as well, because we're going to make some Christmas trees. So there really are lots of possibilities when you've got a stamp, so you can coordinate the ink that you're using with your design. And it's quite nice that we get to use copy paper, because it's certainly not expensive. And especially if you're going to make Christmas cards or something. Now, I also am going to show you next week, I made one of these rosette designs from some wrapping paper, some extra wrapping paper I had that actually had a pattern. So I'm going to kind of show you how you might be able to use some wrapping paper, because wrapping paper is quite a bit thinner than regular cardstock. And so it lends itself well to these designs. The only thing is some wrapping paper, you sometimes get the paper doesn't always fold well. So, all right. Yeah, so Dawn just joined us, or she's telling us that she remembers tea bag folding 20 years ago. So I think this is a faster way to do it. All right. So hopefully everybody's getting their stamp designs completed. And I'm just going to clean my stamp quickly. Now I'm going to use, I have a stamp chamois. I don't know if you've seen the stamp chamois. It's kind of this rubbery type of cloth. You can see mine's been used well with different inks. And if you keep it in a Ziploc bag, it stays wet. And then when you're stamping a lot of different things. So I'm just going to wipe my stamp off, and then I'm done with that for this evening. And you can just rinse it out. It doesn't matter if it gets stained. It's not going to affect how the chamois works. It's a Nelly stamping chamois, and I think the color actually is blue right now. I happen to have a gray one. So I'm going to put my stamp positioner just aside here, and I'm going to grab some of my designs here. And now the next thing we need to do is cut them out. So this is why I wanted to, you just have to kind of make sure you still got them in the correct orientation. Although it's a repetitive design, you may have had it closer to the bottom on one edge or another. So try and see if there's some unique feature for your design so that you can line them up properly. I think this is this way. And you can also see through them. I'm going to just hold them up a little bit to the light, make sure I get them. I think they're good. So now I have 4 here, and I'm going to cut them all together. So that's a time saver. When I initially made this card, I didn't do that. And then it came to me one night as I was in bed thinking about the upcoming class. I thought, why don't I just do that? Cut the paper so it's always the same. And then I can just lay my design on top. Now, these designs do have some little holes in them to help you line things up. But I found they're very easy to line up because there's actually the outer line doesn't get cut, which we're going to use in our next card class because it makes a beautiful frame that you can use. So you can use the leftover piece as a frame. Not this copy paper, but if you were using cardstock. So now I'm just going to cut these 4 designs out. And then I'm going to repeat it with my next 4. Now what this die also does is it has, you'll notice, it has lines in it. And the lines that are in the die help with the folding process, because the lines you can see here actually deboss. Oh, I think my one wasn't really dry. So it debosses the paper a little bit. I'm just going to wipe my die here. Must have chosen one of the last ones I used. But you can see that the die cuts through the 4, no problem. I could probably do 8. But you also see how you get a lovely frame. And therefore, if you use cardstock, you could use the stamp. And whether you wanted to use a medallion on the inside or not, it doesn't matter. Or you could use this as a window and put something inside it. And you would have a beautiful frame that you could stamp in whatever color ink you might use for your particular design. All right, so I'm going to grab my remaining 4 here and line them up. Make sure I've got the same. I think it's this way. I guess another way, if you're stamping, you can always make a little pencil mark or something in one corner, and then that would make it easier to make sure you have them in the correct orientation. But it's not that problematic. Okay, so I have my other 4. Now I'm not taping my die onto the design, but you could also do that if you have, sometimes if you have an electric machine, that just keeps it in place better. Or some people also have a magnetic plate underneath that will keep your dies in the correct position. So that slipped a little bit. Okay. I find if I put my cutting plate in my machine first and then put the top plate on, I have one of the press bosses, then that just keeps everything in position. All right, so we have our other 4 designs. So now you can see I still have a tiny little bit on my die. The stamp chamois works well for that too, so it's not going to harm the die. I'm just gonna. All right. So now part of the instructions is that we're going to add a little bit of color to our stamp designs. So in my example, and I just follow kind of what Jamie Rogers wrote in the instructions, and I used the Peppermint Twist in this sort of outside edge here. And then I did a little bit of purple in this part of the design. You can see like I did it for the whole design. So when you fold it, it all looks really nice. And then on these, I'm going to show you one that I didn't use. So on this long piece, it's just a little bit. And then in each of these circular designs, so in the long pieces, I did purple. in the circular designs, I did purple. And then around the outside edge, I did the Peppermint Twist. So when we're going to paint with Pixie Powders, it's ideal that you have I like to use little inkwells like this. So I have an inkwell, and you can see I've got a bunch of different shades in here. Now these are Pixie Powders, and once they dry, you can re-wet them and reuse them. So if these are colors that I might use frequently or have a little gold accent for some designs, that's why I leave it there. Then all I have to do is wet my paintbrush, dip it in here, and then I have a little bit of gold color on my small paintbrush, and I can use that to accent a design. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our Pixie Powders, and we're going to need both colors. And whoops, I took mine right off. I wouldn't take the lid off. I'm just going to pop the plastic lid off and just tap a little bit into one of my inkwells. And you don't need that much. You're doing 8, but it's not a lot. Big surface area that we're covering tonight. So, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the Peppermint Twist. Now the Peppermint Twist is a greeny gray. When you add water, I like to use a little dropper. So I think we do have droppers. We have little dropper bottles. This is a big medicine dropper I found at the drugstore, but it's nice to just add like a drop of water to your well. And then you can decide if you want to add more. I'm going to add 2 drops to the amount I put in my little inkwells. Oh, and here's my water here. And I think I'm going to, so I have a fairly small, thin brush. I'm not sure what size paintbrushes people have. Or the other thing you can do if you don't want to paint this evening, no, it's possible, but you can also use a marker. And that's what we're going to use on our cards next week, just markers, because that makes it a little bit faster than painting. So for the green, I'm just going to go around the outside edge here. And you can see it's kind of a greeny gray. It's kind of hard for you to see, I think, on my inkwell. But I think if I added less water, it would be more green. It's kind of teal, I guess, a little bit of tealish with some sparkle. It definitely adds sparkle. Whoop, I think somehow I got a little bit of purple in there. Doesn't matter. If you want to do purple, if ever you want to do everything purple, you can do that too. It's totally up to you. So this is going to take a little bit because we got to paint these. You don't have to be too, I mean, I guess it depends what size brush you have, but mine just sort of fits. When you fold it, it's going to be very forgiving because you're only going to see portions of it. What's really nice about the tea bag folding is that no matter how you fold it, the designs all line up again. And that's what makes it really nice. And I think it also, as I was playing with new designs, that's what, when you fold so many, that's what gives it that really nice effect as well. Because when you're adding them all together, all you do is you just see the design. You don't see any sort of blank space, which is really nice. Now this moved a little bit, or it was a little bit off, but when I cut it. Now, I never did the tea bag folding years ago. And, but there's still like, so if you want to be inspired, I'm sure everybody goes to Pinterest to get ideas, but you can just search Pinterest for tea bag folding, and they've got lots of different designs of what you can make. Now, the thing is the different shapes, of course, and this is a pointy petals. A lot of them are square. So it was kind of nice to work with the pointy petals because it really makes the folding easy. I did do the squares, and I found it a little more because there's not as, everything looks the same with the squares, whereas with the pointy petals like we're using this evening, there's something different about the petal, you know, where it's pointy. So it's a good one to start with. But yeah, so there's circle, square, octagon, and the pointy petals. So 4 different ones, and they all come with coordinating stamp sets. So you still have lots of options. And then a lot of the folds are similar, but because of the different shapes, you get different shape of rosettes. But definitely it's, you get some different looks. All right. Yeah, my design I made initially, I had a darker, I must have used more Pixie powder. Maybe I'll add a little bit so you can actually see the difference. Oh, I always wanted the Pixie powders instead of the Pixie sparkles. You have to unscrew the lid, whereas this, you just pop the lid off. So I think that's why I always wanted, I'd take the whole lid off these. It's still pretty much. This one has a lot more sparkle. I think I had a lot of sparkle, but this one, it's still quite a gray, except my my initial one looked teal. So probably just use 1 drop of water instead of 2. Oh, here it's getting a little bit darker. And of course you can always go over it, but you get the idea. But like a marker is really handy, and you can use, of course, any marker. It doesn't have to be a special marker. The only thing is you wouldn't want to add water. If it's a water marker, it would just sort of bleed. But this is sort of at the second step. So but it's say you were adding water, and it would be better to do that first. So if you were going to paint something, you would want to paint it first with water, and then you could do your marker piece. And then tea bag folding's like back, but also iris folding is back. Now, I know I asked a while ago if people had some suggestions for classes, and I think it was Nancy who suggested maybe doing iris folding. So just like tea bag folding, they've made iris folding. I mean, the folding itself is the same, but iris folding was popular when we didn't have as many dies to cut things. So now Hunky Dory came out with different shapes. So a butterfly and a hummingbird and I think a watering can. So you have a die that cuts the shape, and then they give you the pattern for the iris folding. So maybe coming up, we can do one of that, or definitely I can do a demo at some time. I think I'm going to need just a little bit more of this. And so if you're interested in some of the iris folding, you can check out Hunky Dory. It's Hunky Dory that has iris folding, or just type in iris folding in the search bar of the website, and you can see the different options that are available there. And they also have paper. So the iris folding paper actually would lend itself to tea bag folding as well. So there is a paper pack that has, I can't tell you the exact number of sheets, but it has a combo pack of solid colors as well as pattern paper and with some sort of gold foil type designs. So that would be another option for tea bag folding as well. And there's a nice selection of colors that would go for all occasions. So you can do both with that paper pack. Or you can do both with the Jamie Rogers paper packs as well once they come back in stock. Because iris folding also needs to have thin paper, so you can do the multiple folds. Iris folding is kind of fun too. But I hadn't done tea bag folding, so I quite enjoyed it. All right. So how many do I have here? I think I have 2 more for the outer edge, and then we're going to have to add some of the purple color. Then we'll start folding. So I hope everybody's having some lovely, I guess it's still officially spring weather. Although summer's coming soon, it is nice having longer light during the daytime. And in the morning, I guess. It's been fairly nice here in Southern Ontario. We've had some hot days and then some rainy and not so hot days, but the garden's growing, that's for certain. Oh, somebody commented that tea bag folding is new. Well, it's new to me too. I just remembered it before. I'm not really a tea drinker, so I didn't have any opportunity to do the tea bag folding, but they used to have fancy tea bags. And then iris folding, actually, that started with envelopes. So the inside of envelopes, when there used to be fancy printing on the inside of envelopes, they used that for iris folding. So people were saved everything, just like I think a lot of crafters save everything. So like me, I always hate throwing out paper if I can cut something else out of it or something. So if you still get envelopes or you have fancy tea bags, you can save them. All right, how am I doing here? I think I've got all of my outer edges done. I'm going to rinse my brush and now add a little bit of the purple. So you can see how the purple, well, pretty dark here, but just the points and the circular areas. Yeah, definitely a marker is faster. It also gives you lots of options, but I like the Pixie Sparkle powders, and I like how you can paint with them. It's also another option for different designs that you might be making, but it's great for backgrounds. Probably should put it down. And you just kind of need to touch the paper. The paper's pretty thin, so it does allow it to dry fairly quickly too. And you can also, of course, if you have other stamps that you want to use to color in, you can color it in with the pixies as well. Whether it's the powder or the sparkles, they both allow you to paint. Or you could put them in a spray bottle and use them with your stencils as well. That's also an option. They're pretty versatile. Now the Pixie Powders have a little bit more color, like they burst into color. Well, I'm looking at my background that's drying right now, and it's got a bunch of different colors in it. So these also do a little bit like, but the real difference between the Pixie Powders and the Sparkle Powders is the amount of mica that's in them. And mica is what gives things the shine or sheen that you'll see. So, should have a little bit of music in the background, I guess. Oh, Nancy just arrived, but haven't had oh, she got the bundle, but hasn't had a chance to open it yet. I'm certainly not staying inside the lines very well, but. But they're still looking quite pretty. They have a nice sparkle. It's hard to pick up sparkle on the camera. But I'm sure you can see it if you're following along and painting. It looks a little green. My green looks a little greener now since it's drying a little bit. I think I have 2 left. I hope everyone's doing well with their painting or coloring with the marker. All right, one more. And it is nice. This is a die, the frame that you have. It is a die set from Sue Wilson. So one of the Creative Expressions Sue Wilson dies. And it makes a lovely frame. It has both squares and the scalloped edges. So I don't actually have that number. I don't have that die. I grabbed one of the tea bag folding kits. So my sample tonight, I don't have a frame for it, but I have other square dies I can use. And that's, you'll have the frame for your design. So that's the main thing. But any nested squares, usually you can make a frame. This one just lends itself to this size of design. All right, I have my stamp designs colored, so I hope everyone's doing well. At least you'll have some, and we can do some of the folding. So I'm going to try and find some that are drier. So if you haven't finished your coloring, it might be a good idea just to put that aside and take one of your designs that we're going to fold, and I'll walk you through the fold that we're going to use for this card. Okay, so we're going to do 8, and we've just painted them. So you'll notice that you can hold it so the pointy edge is at the top, or you can hold it so 2 designs are at the top. So hold it with 2 designs at the top. So what you're going to do is then fold in between the designs, right in half. So we're not actually, now there is a line there, but we're not folding into the points. Okay, so that's the first fold. So it's exactly the same on either side. And then you're going to just open it up again, and you're going to do exactly the same thing on the opposite side. So now we kind of did a crisscross, but we did a crisscross in between the petal designs, right? So not actually folding the petal. We'll do that a little bit later, but that's one way to think about this, because I know when I was doing it, I kept thinking, okay, how I got a little bit confused. And then once I realized that, then that made it far simpler. All right, so now we're going to leave it in half. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold in this edge. All right, let me get my thing here. Okay, so we have this like this. And what we want to do now is to tuck this side in. So there. So you basically have 2 little pieces, and we're going to fold those in. So now we have sort of 3 pointy petals. And now we're going to do the same thing to this side. So you can hold it here, and then you're going to just kind of tuck this in, and hopefully it will fold. And then what you're left with is 2 petals, or 2 pointy petals with the folds. Okay, we're going to do it again. So then for this particular design, we're going to do one more fold, because it's easier if you see this is kind of what we're going to make this design with the 2 points here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the one edge, and we're going to crease it. Now I didn't tell you about, my camera, sorry, froze there a minute. That you can burnish the folds with your bone folder, and that will help it stay flatter if you want a flatter design. And then we're just going to fold this in as well, the other side. And so this is where you see we folded half of the pointy petal. So that's on one side, and we're going to turn it over and we're going to do exactly the same thing. So we're going to fold it towards the center, and you can see how the pattern lines up because it's a repetitive pattern. So you can see you wouldn't even know that that was folded over. And then we're going to fold this side in as well. So that's our finished design. And we're going to have 8 of these, and that's how we're going to put them into, make them into a rosette. Okay, so this is all folded. And because it's all folded, like I said, it does make the design look really nice, because when you put it all together, I'm just going to try and show you this so you can kind of see how you see the pattern even in the folds, which is what makes it very nice and it looks very intricate. All right, so we're going to do this again. So take another design. At least we have 8, so everyone's going to have lots of practice. Okay, so you're going to hold it so that the 2 points are at the top, it's flat. And we're going to fold it in between, in half, but in between the pointy petals. Okay. And you do have the line, and you could burnish it if you want to. I like to just get the fold sort of together. And now you're going to open this up, and you're going to, so I folded it across here. Now I want to fold it across here. So I've made a cross in my design. And again, you're just going to fold it in half. And you can burnish it. Now I'm going to leave it like this. Now what I want to do is I want to tuck these 2 designs in. So I'm going to hold it up and I'm going to tuck those in. And there is a line here. We didn't fold it, but you can fold it, because it kind of goes in. And now I'm left with, you can see 3, but this is where I have my 2 of these pointy petals have gone in. And now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm just going to push it. You can kind of see it there. And then I can just fold it. So I'm left with 2. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold each of the petals, the remaining petals, in half towards the center. So this comes to the center, and I'm going to burnish my fold. And now I'm going to bring the upper layer. So there's 2 layers here, but you're just going to use the upper layer, and you're going to fold it in. And now we're going to flip it over. So this is what design I have, like this, both folded. And then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do the same thing to the back side. Just fold it into the center. And you can see how it all just lines up. So we folded it all, but you've got the same pattern. This opens here, but we're going to leave it closed. And so now we have 2 pieces of our rosette. So we're going to do it again. So take another one of your designs, and again, we're going to fold in half between the pointy petals. And we're going to open it up, and we're going to make a cross. And now what we want to do is we want to, if we if I open it, we want to tuck these two inside. So you can fold along there. Oh, these two. I've confused myself. You do need to do it a few times to get it. So these two, and I'm just going to fold here, right? So think of it that these two have to get tucked in. And then now we have three, and we want to tuck these two in again, and then we'll be left with two. So now I have the same on the back and the front. And now we're just going to fold the upper layer into the center. And you can see how the patterns match again. And the upper layer, we're going to fold again in here. And then we're going to flip it over and fold to the inside another time. I'm in trouble after the first two folds. Okay. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Okay, so now we have three, or the better it's, now there are instructions on, let me get these out. So you can see how he folded it in half just like we did. So that you have 4 pointy petals on the half. And then what we're going to do is open it back up again and just fold it so that there is that cross design. Excuse me. And that just makes the folds a little bit easier when you try and tuck the two inside. And then in this picture, picture number 3, if you have the design in front of you, we want to tuck these two. So if we hold it like, camera pose here. Okay. Hold it like, oh, it keeps freezing on me here. Okay. So we want to tuck this one and this one. So one's on one side, one's on the other, and we want them to go in. So we're going to just fold. We can just crease the fold here. Increase the fold on the other side, and then that will tuck in. Can you see how it's going to tuck in here when I close it? And now I'm going to repeat that step on this side. So I want to tuck these two to the inside. You're going to push them to the inside, and you just want to fold in between the pointy part up to the top. I'm going to do this, and then we can just close it. So hopefully that helped. And then the next bit, so you can see he's got his here like this, and we've got ours. It might be easier to see on the plain design. And then all we do is we just fold the upper layer to the inside and the upper layer to the inside. And you can see how the pattern just all matches because it's just a repetitive pattern in the way we're folding it. And then we're going to turn it over, and we're going to fold this outside edge to the inside again. And we're left with this sort of V-shaped design with the pointy petals in half. And like several layers here, 2 different layers of 2. Because eventually we're going to put them all together. All right, so we're going to do that again. Hopefully sometimes it just, all of a sudden it will make sense. So fold it in half we're going to open it up. We're going to fold it in half again. I'm going to move this. And then we need to bring, kind of, yeah, and tuck this in. So tuck the two inside. So I'm just going to fold, and we're always folding in between the petals until the last step. And then we fold the petals towards the center. Now we're just going to fold it again to the center, to the center, to the center, and to the center. Let's do this again. So we always fold in between the points until the last part. So we fold it in half, and then we open it up, and we fold it in half again, so that if we were to look at our folds, we've got like a cross here. Keep it in half, and we're going to tuck these two, have to go inside. So again, we only fold along between the points. So you can, and then you can just tuck those in, okay? So again, the points are always, we're not folding at the points until the end. And so again, one more time, we're gonna fold, these two need to get tucked in. So we're gonna just crease this area and crease this area. And again, it's not at the points. And then that will allow this to tuck in. And we'll be left with two pointy petals. Once again, fold to the inside, fold to the inside. And we're going to flip it over, fold to the inside, and fold to the inside. So how are people doing? Have I totally confused you, or everyone's sort of understanding this first fold? We have two left here. In half. And burnish if you want. Open it up. In half again. And now you can, we want to tuck these two in. So you're going to fold along the lines. It's really kind of this little, let me try and pull it up. This little that we colored purple, you kind of need to fold that one in half. And then you need to fold it in half on this side here. That might help you. So here I've got those, and then I'm just going to tuck them in. And it does seem to go easily, and then we just have to repeat that here. Like I just kind of tuck it in and then crease these and then fold it over. Got it. Somebody said, got it. Okay, good. I know once you get it, you think, oh, okay. At least we have 8 to do, and then how's the time looking? Oh, yeah, well, hopefully we can get the other fold done as well. It's very, very similar. It's just that we're going to do the last step a little differently. All right, so I don't know where people are at, but this is my last one. So fold in half, open up, fold in half again. This one I didn't cut so well, but. And then we're going to try and tuck these two in. I start on the right, but I don't know. I suppose if somebody's left-handed, it might work. You might want to start on the other side. And then these are going to get tucked in. And then we're going to do the one last side. So that folds over. Yeah, this one didn't cut it so nicely, but that's all right. And then we're going to fold the upper layer to the inside, upper layer to the inside, flip it over, upper layer to the inside, upper layer to the inside, and now we have our final. To me, it looks kind of like a V or a vase, like a flower vase. My mom has one, something like this. All right, so hopefully people are finishing up their folds. And then what we're going to do is, if you cut a piece of paper, now I like to use, what do I have here? Just a piece of cardstock. What I have a piece of, oh, it all fell. That's fine. So I have, this is, I think it's about 1.5 inches. You don't need a big size of paper. And you can choose to add glue to this, or you can cover it with double-sided tape if that's what you have. Hopefully my glue is working. I didn't bring my bigger size of double-sided tape. So I'm just going to cover this in a little bit of glue. And this is going to serve as our base that we're going to add our pieces to. And it just needs to be a little bit smaller than the rosette itself. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to just put this down, put one piece down first, and then you're just going to line up the other pieces beside it. And so the pointed pieces are attached to the glue. It doesn't have, not everything has to be attached to the glue, and it doesn't have to be centered. Not really centered, but it's not going to matter because I can still keep adding my folded pieces. So now I'm half, it's like basically half, but you can see it's not exactly centered. And you can just keep adding them, lining up the patterns, because you can see these are two different patterns, but it matches completely in the center, which is what's kind of fun about the tea bag folding. It's kind of like those pinwheels. Just, all right. And you can see how they, well, hopefully everyone is getting theirs sort of, it just lines all up. Now this one, I didn't fold in half to the center, so I'm going to do that. And then I can add it in the remaining little piece. And then that's how you put it together. So once you do it a few times, it actually goes quite quickly. And I love how all the patterns just merge together. So that putting it together was pretty fast after we did all the folding and all the coloring. And you can see it's even pretty on the bottom, but that's why you color everything, but you don't see a lot that you color. Now in this example, I have a very large pearl that I used, But so I'm not sure if somebody has a gem that would finish off the center, but you can see that, you know, the circular design in the center and then all of the points, and yet these were separate pieces, but when you put it together, it all lines up. So it is quite intricate, and it takes a while to get the fold going, but after you do it and you put it together and you think, wow, it does look very intricate. How did you do that? But it's just step by step, and it actually is pretty simple. So that's the one rosette. And again, you could add it to a gift box, to a gift bag, other decorations, whatever you want to think about. And it does, when you put it in an envelope, it does go quite flat because we use the very, very thin paper for it. So it does go flat. So it has some bulk to it, but it still can go through the mail. So I don't know how, if people, this is my background. Mine's a little bit wet still. But basically, to finish off this design, I would cut this down to fit on the card and then put that on top of a 5.5 by 5.5 card. So I cut the card 5.5 by 11. So it uses 5.5 inches or a part of an 8.5 by 11, and then folded it in half. Add the background to your card, and then you have the frame, and you can put some foam tabs behind the frame if you like, and it makes it a little bit raised. I had some foam strips, so I used some foam strips, and then I just added my rosette to the center. So that's how we can finish off the card. I think in the interest of time, I'd like to do the second fold. We can always come back and finish these designs at our next class in 2 weeks, because the card designs that I made are a little simpler, and you'll have some experience with the folding, but it's a very simple fold, what I chose for next week. So we can always come back and finish off these designs. But I thought it might be kind of nice to go on and do the smaller design. And I'm just going to find my sample here. Here we go. Now this is a Z fold card. But let's just focus on the folding, because I think we can put the cards together next week. This has some just embossed lines that I used with the scoreboard. So it wasn't an embossing folder or anything. You could use an embossing folder if you wanted, but really it's about this fold. So in order to do this, I'm going to just set aside these pieces. And then I'm going to look at Jamie's instructions, because when I was putting it together, I didn't cut my paper. I kind of cut my rosette or my folding pieces before I cut the background pieces. But you can see that there's the three, or maybe you got 3 colors. Did you get 3 or 4 colors? 4 colors, because the rosette has 4 different colors. And you use 3 for the background. So the card itself, you cut an 8 by 8 piece of paper and you fold it in half, and then we will score it. But I think let's not worry. We'll put the cards together next week. But what I want to do right now is die cut the pieces that we're going to fold with this fold. So let me just review the instructions. So he has step 1, dark pink sheet, you want to cut it 3 3/4 by 7 3/4. Now it is an 8 by 8 piece of paper. So I'm just going to take a quarter piece off. Now he chose to have, so I have the colors that are in the example, but whatever colors you have, you can choose whatever you like. So in this example, the darkest color I used as a background, and that's kind of how he did it in his instructions. And then there's smaller strips on each part of the Z fold. But I just don't want you to run out of paper if you cut it wrong, because you're going to use what's left over. So we're going to, oh, my camera keeps freezing here. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to cut that off. And I made 3 3/4. So I'm going to cut this whole thing 3 3/4. And then I'm just going to trim this to 7. So this is 7 3/4. I think he wrote 7 3/4. So I just need to trim a 1/4 of an inch off, which makes it a little challenging here. I'm just gonna eyeball it. Okay. Because now, so this is our back panel that I just cut. And now I have this piece, the right-hand side piece with my hand on it, that I can cut my rosettes out of. Or my medallions, I don't know. The rosettes, I think, are the finished product. Medallions are the, so we need the dark middle pink sheet. Yeah, so you might want to take your next darkest color. That is 1.75, so 1 3/4 by 7 3/4. So I'm just going to put that. So this is the strip for half of my Z fold. And then I'm going to choose the next lightest color, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So 1 3/4 by 7 3/4. And I'm just leaving the strips over there because now I have the leftover paper that I can cut my rosettes from. And we need 2 from each of the colors. And we still have a lighter color as well, because you have 4 colors for this design. And again, what we're going to try and do is cut 2, or I think we could actually cut 3 or 4 together. Where's my die? So if you want to get your die, oh, here we go. The die itself, I don't have my ruler with me, but I'm just going to use it on my cutting or my guillotine here. So the die itself is just over 2 1/4. So I'm going to cut pieces, strips from this leftover paper at 2 1/2. I'm just going to do 2 1/2 here. I'm at 2 1/2. And then this is my leftover piece. I have my panel piece set aside, and I'm going to do this at 2 1/2 too. I'm going to see if I can cut all 4 together, which I should be able to. So what I've done is I have 2 1/2 by the full 8 of each color, and I'm just going to put them all together so we can cut all 4 at once. with my die. And this is, you don't have to line it up or anything. So let me see. The only downside, I guess, of cutting them all together is that you may not get the score lines or the debossed lines as deep in some of the papers, but I think it still does a pretty good job. So we're going to do this twice. So I've got, okay. So I've got all my colors. And I line it all back up again and do the same. So you're going to have some leftover paper for future designs. So that I hopefully everybody was able to cut like the 4 colors all together. It certainly does make things faster than doing individual cuts. All right. So this fold, if we go back to our instructions, it's actually fold number 4. On the instruction sheet, which is right here. And we're going to start the same way we did before. It's kind of, actually, maybe we should have started with this because you actually see the lines, which make it a little simpler. So we're going to do it's actually exactly the same. We're going to tuck these 2 in. You can kind of, again, see. It's a smaller size that we're working with. And then and now, yeah, what you're going to do is fold. So what you're going to do is fold it to the center like we did before. But then what you're going to do is we're going to fold it back on itself and it's going to sit up. That's kind of, it was just easier to fold it on itself first. So I'm just going to open that up, but I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So again, just like we did before, we're going to fold it to the inside. And this is a little bit thicker paper than our copy paper. And so once we have it folded to the inside, like we had this one as well, so it looked similar to what we did before, but this time we're going to open it up. But once we have that fold there, we're going to fold it on its back. And then we're going to, the folds are going to look like this. So see, so it's kind of flat on the one side and then the 2 raised areas, but this is just like this. So you could do it oh, I think my camera keeps freezing here. Okay. So this is the 2 petals like we had before. And then basically we're just going to fold it in half, but we're going to tuck it up. So there's ridges on the top. Okay, so we're going to do that again. I'm going to choose a different color. So we're going to fold it in half between the not at the point level. And then we're going to open it up and we're going to fold it in half again. Then we're going to tuck those 2 of the petals to the inside. And you can see these little score lines on the colored paper. So we've got the 2 tucked in there. Now we're going to do this side. You might want to burnish the folds. And basically you can either choose to just fold this to the inside, or you can do just like we did before, where we folded it in half to the inside and then turn it over. It just seems to make it easier. And that's what Jamie Rogers did too, so that it sits up. Now it's hard to, because then what we're going to do is we're going to put all of these together and put the different colors in between. But this is kind of what we want. We want the 2 pointed sitting up. Because like this one, because I want to do the same. This one has to, the top, where am I here? That's going to go like this. I think I got myself mixed up here. So this one, yeah, okay. And then this one goes to the inside, but we're going to flip it back too. But I've got 2 here. How come? I think when you flip it over, you get yourself confused here. Oh, because this has to go. Okay, I'm going to start all over again. Here we go. In half. In half. We're going to tuck these 2 in. And then this is going to get, I'm going to fold it up and in. And then I'm going to fold it back behind. And again, folding it into the center is just to help create a fold. Fold it into the center and then fold it back. Okay. So you've got this like little wing, set of wings here for a butterfly, or it looks like a little airplane kind of thing, one of those folded airplanes. All right, so we're going to keep going with the next one. Okay, hopefully people are getting this one. So again, we're going to make that cross. You can see it better with the plain paper than with the stamped paper. And then we're going to tuck these 2. So we're just going to fold along these lines to tuck them in. All right, so we have 3 petals. And now we're going to go down to 2 on this side. We're going to do exactly the same. To tuck it in. So we're left with the 2 pointy petals. It's definitely like, because it's smaller, I'm going to fold to the inside, fold to the inside, and then we're just going to fold them back on themselves so that they stand up. I think it's better to keep it on the flat. And then we have our little wings, set of wings. I'm going to do this one again. So again, this is fold number 4 in the on this sheet, and then there's actually a couple other folds. Again, it's just variations of folding the upper bits. So you can sometimes tuck them in behind or fold them up, and that's kind of fold number 3. But let's just continue with fold number 4. Okay, so in half, and then we're going to tuck these two to the inside. I think seeing the score lines helps with this part of it. So 2, and then fold it in. I'm going to do both. Fold it in, which is that's what we're left with. And now we're just going to fold it back on itself. Each of those folds that we did in, we're going to fold on the back. So it just makes that part stand up. I think is when you take it off the there. Okay. This is definitely when you take it off the, there we go. Okay. Fold in half. Fold in half. I find this paper, mine seems to fold a little easier with the creases than I think it because it's thicker, it seems to have better creases than the copy paper. All right, so we're going to fold in. I'm going to leave it, and then I'm just going to fold it back on that fold line. Fold it back. So it sits up. All right. You got. Okay. So down to the last 2 here. Hopefully everyone's doing okay. And fold to the center, fold to the center, and then fold it back to make it stand up. So this rosette that we're making right now, it doesn't flatten the same way that the other one did or does. So it's very pretty, and I think it would be great on a box or a bag or as a decoration. It would be a little more challenging to send through the mail, but of course if you're going to hand deliver it to somebody, then you don't have to worry about it getting squashed or squished in the mail. So I think this is perfect for gift wrapping and a rosette on a box, on the top of a box or something. All right. So we've got our little winged, to me they look like little wings. Oh. All right, so hopefully people have managed to do that. And now what we're going to do is the same thing we did with when we put together the other rosette. We're going to get a piece of white paper, a square piece of white paper, and I do not know what I did with my piece. And we're going to glue the pieces down. Oh, here we go. And again, it doesn't have to be square and it doesn't have to be large. In fact, this is probably going to make it, I think if you make it smaller, it's not going to hang out over the edge. So I'm going to do some glue. Now, on the instructions that came with your kit, you can see how to put it together. So I'm going to walk you through it. In this design, it looks like 2 of the darker ones were used here, and then 2 of the same color here. It doesn't really matter. And then we're using the 2 other colors to fill it in. So I'll walk you through it. So we're just going to put some glue, or again, you can use double-sided tape. We're just having a rainstorm here. All right. Okay. So I'm going to use the darkest color, and I'm going to put it on my design here. And again, it doesn't have to be straight because we're going to color. So choose your 2 colors. I'm going to have the 2 darkest colors, and then I'm going to add the lighter color. So I'm just putting it again side by side. And then this, I'm going to do the first color. I'm going to add that again. And I'm going to add, I think I'm missing one. Oh no, it's this one. Okay. Okay. So now we have 4 attached to our design. Okay, so you can see 2 of the darker colors here, and then the second darker color here. And now what we're going to do, because we used a bollard glue, is we're going to put some glue on the underside of the last pieces, and we're going to tuck them inside here. Okay, so you see that? So this opening, these flat pieces in between what's sitting on top of the design, that's where we're going to put these ones. And they just sort of slide in, and then we'll have a full sort of rosette. So again, we're just going to add some glue to the underside of these pieces. Doesn't have to be a lot of glue. You can kind of pinch the 2 together and then just put it in the flat spaces of the pieces that we've already added to the cardstock. And we do want to rotate the design. So this is exactly the same color, and I'm just going to go on the opposite side. So again, I'm just going to place it in there, and the glue's going to hold. And now this one I never glued, but I'm going to take this out. And on the underside, add some glue, and then fit it in to the flat part. And you can press it down. All right, and then the final piece goes in. So we do have there. So again, you've got your final design that looks very intricate. And yet it actually was very similar to the other design, except we just did a little variation so that these areas or the part of the rosette are raised and they don't fall flat. So again, it's going to stay raised. And then in the design here, I used a big pearl to finish off the design, and then we can finish off this card. We can put both cards together at our next class. I thought this was a little ambitious, but at least we did get through the folding piece. And then in the next class, we're going to try some different folds using the same product. So I'm going to show you that now. So let me show you. So maybe anybody, write in the chat if anybody has any questions. I know it was a lot of folding, but I think once you get the initial fold, then everything else goes quite easily after that. All right, so the next class, we're going to finish these, or you can finish them on your own time. It doesn't matter, whatever, but I will go through so we can put it together. So this design I came up with, so this is red paper, and I used Versamark with gold embossing powder using the smaller stamp. And then the medallion, this is actually a frame around it, and then the medallion is recessed. And then we're going to cut out another of the poinsettias and just fold that a little bit to make it raised and put it in the center. I also used the stamps in the corner to create a corner design. And then these are just gold sticker lines. So it's the same sticker line sheet that we used in the dogwood panel class. Okay. And then, so that's one card. And then so it's Christmas, but Christmas. And then this card I made using, so we're going to stamp with green ink, and we're going to use our folds and make some Christmas trees. So I put it on, this is an embossed background. I do, Corey will send out the instructions, and on that I do have the embossing folder that I use listed, but any snow scene or any winter scene would work well. And then this is a little bit raised, the snowdrift, and we added some glitter. So we're going to do that fold, and these will go flat. So again, they're going to work well in the mail, and I added a little bit of glitter. Yeah, they are very cute Christmas trees. I used the stamp, but you could also use solid paper. So it might be a little early, but somehow I never think it's too early to get started on Christmas. And it's always nice to use items that you can use for every day, also for Christmas, right? So that's what I kind of wanted to do for the next card class. So we'll do these two cards. And then I also used this. So I kept saying, like, it looks nice for a gift box. So this is a little box I made. And this was wrapping paper that I had. And it had a pattern on it. And I was able to cut it out and fold it to create, I made a little bauble, but it's a little glitter, but it was just a circle. It just fell off. But I didn't have a jewel big enough, but we'll go through that, how you can just use a piece of paper and sort of form it, and it'll look like a jewel as well for the center. So this was using wrapping paper, so I'll kind of go through how I use the wrapping paper. And yes, and we can make a little gift box too. It's just white. I just use white cardstock and black cardstock. So that's pretty simple too. So that's kind of the ideas for our next class in 2 weeks. And as I said, we'll go through the folding again, and we'll finish off these cards because it is getting, so we'll finish that. I think that's okay. I think these are less intricate, and now that you've got the hang of folding, and if you have any questions, of course, we can go through it all again. All right. I think that's it. Yeah, so additional items for the next card class, if you wanted. Now, I did this in red and gold, but maybe you want to do, maybe have silver embossing powder or silver ink. You could do it in different colors or silver on red, whatever you prefer. Some people like gold, some people like red or silver. So, or even white. Like there, so think about what you might have in your stash to use. This is a small sentiment. You don't have to add a sentiment, but this is a hefty doodle. It's listed in the instructions if you're interested. I don't know how many sentiments. There's got to be 50 on that stamp set. But that's kind of the idea and how we're going to make this a frame, so you can use that as well in everyday things. And then the embossing folder. But again, a lot of times people love snowflake embossing folders or snow or some sort of winter scene. I think it would lend itself to this design. I hope everybody's okay with the YouTube and the Facebook. I think the nice thing about the YouTube and Facebook is that the videos are available almost immediately after we finish our class. So you're welcome to go back and review. The other thing about the next card class is that I should be able to do it in the afternoon. So I'm aiming for 1:30 to 3:30 so that we can sort of alternate between afternoon and evening so that we can, try and accommodate everyone's schedule. So we're going to aim for 1:30 to 3:30 on June 23rd, and we'll finish the cards off from tonight, and we're going to work on some Christmas cards. So you're already ahead of the game for Christmas. All right. So if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel or you're not a member of our Facebook, do so, and you'll always get notifications for our next classes as well as demonstrations. I hope to do a few demonstrations this week. I've been very busy and a new chance to do some demonstrations, but I will do those. I think I'm going to try and use the perfect bow maker. So if you have troubles with bows or you're not sure how to use the bow maker and have one, then I'm going to try and demo that. So, and hopefully you can see that and you'll get notifications if you subscribe to our YouTube channel or a member of the Facebook. And then there will be a video available for you to watch as well. So enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me this evening, and I hope to see you again on June 23rd. And we are going to aim for that 1:30 to 3:30 time slot. And Corey will be sending out reminders to you. And I'm not sure he sent out the instructions yet, but I have them ready to go, and he will be sending them out shortly. All right. So thanks again for joining me, and enjoy the rest of your evening and the next few weeks, and see you on the 23rd.